Joshua Cribbs turns disaster into a score!
Ugly, misformed little creature who has no purpose here, no meaning.
I am a human being.
Washed it down with 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, a shot of whiskey, a margarita, and a Bloody Mary. And I said, Stone Cold, why have one when you can have them both?
Swung out and drilled! Deep right center! Away back! Gone for Tony!
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton?
Awful.
How is she awful?
Hates freedom.
And now, Any Given Podcast with your hosts, Brendan Ward and Ethan Simpson.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Any Given Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brendan Ward, sitting here with my main man,
Ethan Simpson, how are you?
and we're going to go ahead and get right on into the Any Given Podcast Fantasy Football League, drafting tomorrow night, one night before opening night of the NFL season. I can't wait to just beat the crap out of everyone.
The funny thing is I can't wait to beat the crap out of you and Josh Pridemore and Ian Simpson and my dad.
I'm taking out T. I'm taking out Josh. I don't even know Josh, but I'm taking him out. I'm taking you out. I'm taking my cousin out. I'm taking Ian. We're throwing Kyle in there. He getting taken out. Heidi's in there. She gonna get taken out. My uncle's in there. He thinks he knows football. He's getting taken out.
I'm gonna take everybody out. I got a special pickup. I'm not even gonna get into it.
My man gonna be playing in the toilet bowl.
Okay.
But let's get into some real sports. Go ahead with what do we got for the Indians today?
Well, the Indians, we got a big weekend series. With right now we're playing the Royals, but after that we're playing the Twins and the Cubs. That's this weekend, right?
Yeah,
Cubs?
Twins coming up this weekend, starting Thursday.
So we got the weekend series. We just have to get past the Royals, which I don't find that to be too difficult at all. Maybe drop one. Who knows?
I think to kind of keep on the road that they're going on, they need to win all 4 against Kansas City this week to start this week.
Yeah, they won last night, and we'll see how they do tonight. They beat the Brewers, which they took 2 out of the 3 against the Brewers.
Big series win.
Big series win. Obviously, Minnesota, they're in our division, and then we have the Cubs. The Cubs are, if I'm not mistaken, 3rd or 4th I believe in the NL. They're right around there.
They're one of the best teams in the National League.
Yeah,
sure.
so they're right there rivaling the Indians. So we need to take care of that business. Tonight, Tuesday night, we have Tristan McKenzie, Sticks on the mound, who the MLB just randomly made him one of the top 100 prospects today, which he's not a prospect anymore. He's in the bigs.
Yeah, we moved on from that. What is he in pitchers? Because he's been playing like the Indians' second best pitcher.
Right, and he's fantastic. And for a guy to come up like that, that's insane. Obviously, he's got a great rotation around him with Bieber. He has the veteran Carrasco telling him all that, or teaching him all that stuff. So what are your thoughts for the final 19 games?
I think you take care of Minnesota this weekend and Chicago to start next week, and you put yourself in a good position with only 2 weeks left to not only win the Central but get a favorable seed in the playoffs, which is going to include 16 teams now.
Yeah. Here's the only thing that has been a problem with the Indians for as long as I've been a fan is their bats don't get hot, and then they have like a 2 or 3 game stretch where they are just scoring, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 runs, and then the next 4 or 5 games, maybe 1 or 2 runs. it's kind of annoying, but that's baseball.
Yeah, you're gonna go through highs and lows, and I think it's really important during this 60-game season to make sure that those highs are in important spots, because you can go through those lows against the Royals or against the Tigers or really any team that's bottom of the barrel. But if you do that against Minnesota, against the White Sox in the lineup that they have now, against the Brewers and stuff like that, and I know they didn't do it against the Brewers over the weekend because they did win the series and score 4 or 5 runs each game, but I think they have a very good shot to put themselves in a very good position to succeed beyond the first round. Now, if you're the 7th seed in the first round, and then you're going to play the 2 seed Houston Astros, like nobody wants. I'm not necessarily worried about the Astros, but I don't want to have to play 3 straight games in Houston.
Yeah, I can see that. But with the Astros, they have not been producing as they have in the past. I wonder why.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not necessarily scared of the Astros, and maybe the Astros aren't the best example there. Would you want to go play the Twins 3 times in Minnesota? Would you want to go play the Yankees 3 times in New York?
Yeah,
Do you want to go to Tampa Bay with how they're playing right now? One of the best records in baseball.
Yeah. Are the Rays second?
The Dodgers are the best.
I know
record
the
in baseball.
Dodgers. Yeah, I know Dodgers.
And then
are number
the
one.
Rays at least are the best record in the American League. I know that. There might be a team ahead of them over in the NL for number 2, but
yeah. So, like you were saying, obviously going into New York or Minnesota or going down to St. Petersburg to play the Rays, that would not be ideal. But with this starting rotation we have, I believe that we, just on the starting rotation, we are smoothly groovy, but we need the offense to pop off. Naylor, now, he hasn't produced, but he's only played a few games here, but he's doing better than Luplow was.
I was going to say, maybe he hasn't produced extensively, but he's already got more hits than Naylor this year as an Indian. He's been here a week.
Yeah, and that's all we needed, because it's better than first pitch, fly out,
Naylor didn't get a hit. I mean, Luplow didn't get a hit in his first 21 at-bats.
Right, and then his first hit was a home run.
Yeah, it was weird. And Luplow wasn't even bad for the Indians last year, which is why he returned this year. But he's been bad. Just like most of that outfield has been bad. And I think they finally found their 2 corner guys in Naylor and Naquin. They're just trying to see who steps up in center field between Mercado or
DeShields.
And
I like both of them. Mercado, he started off slow. DeShields he's at least been a little consistent, but
I think DeShields is like your flat line.
Yeah.
He's consistently been okay. He's not going to set the world on fire. Mercado can, and that's what they want from him, and he hasn't really done it until over the weekend in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I mean, in Cleveland against Milwaukee.
That was my whole big thing after the trade deadline was, why didn't we get a seasoned vet like Jackie Bradley Jr.? We could have done a 3-game trade with the Padres, the Red Sox, and the Indians.
I thought if the Indians were going to move a pitcher, it would be 4 prospects, but 100% that the cornerstone of a trade would be a big league hitter.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else I could really say besides that while I don't know if they're better because they lost Clevenger, I'll take Naylor. Hedges needs to learn pitches. I won't say pitches. He needs to learn what people like to throw. Because I don't know if you've seen, but in that Carrasco outing the other day when they had Hedges catching, Carrasco had to call him to the mound like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, and he should sit down with Sandy and Roberto and talk with those guys. Like, look, they need to actually sit down instead of him talking to them talk to him and figure out, like, because Roberto knows what Cookie wants to throw.
Well, and that was my biggest thing with that is like, how is before putting him in a game, how is that conversation not had that Cookie doesn't want to throw 5 fastballs in an at bat?
Right. Beats me.
And he just kept calling for it, and I mean, it didn't really even become a huge thing because Cookie was like, "Yo, dude, give me a curveball, give me a changeup, give me something that's not just this 4-seam fastball." But even him on the offensive side, even Hedges on the offensive side wasn't great.
Yeah.
But Roberto,
New team, new organization. I can understand that, but that's with 161 or
Yeah.
2-game season, not 60 games.
I'm all for giving Hedges opportunities right now. Mm-hmm. But if him or Leone are in a lineup in the playoffs, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah, but who could we really put up in there? Would we just have Roberto every game?
Unless he's hurt, I think he probably should start out. He's your best defensive catcher, and he's probably your best catcher at the plate at this moment.
Makes sense.
I don't know if Hedges is a liability at the plate from the one game we saw with the Indians, and Leone can't hit the broadside of a barn. So I don't really know what to tell you about the catchers not named Roberto Perez on this team, considering Yan Gomes is no longer a catcher on this team.
Yeah, that was one of the things last season when they traded Yan Gomes that kind of threw me off. I understand that Yan Gomes he's injury prone and he doesn't hit the ball all the time, but he was in the World Series. He was Kluber's right-hand man.
He was that veteran guy that knew what the pitchers wanted to throw, and just he wasn't a liability defensively. I saw a couple balls get past Hedges that my heart can't take in the playoffs.
That is true.
If I seen that in a game 7 of a playoff game, I'd break my TV. Probably like it was just so like I'm not gonna keep pounding the kid into the ground. He doesn't deserve that. He's very fresh in the organization. He doesn't even know the pitchers. But overall, I think they're in a good position to set themselves up for postseason success. As long as this lineup does start turning around, and it does seem like they are. Mm-hmm. For the first 40 games of the season, it seemed like they were just like, okay, one guy needs to hit a bomb. Franmil, Lindor, Ramirez, Santana, Hernandez. One of you guys do it for us. But now it seems like the back end of that lineup is starting to string together, maybe not hits, but sacrifices and fielder's choices and errors and getting on base. Like that game against the Royals last night, they scored, 5?
Yeah.
None of them were bombs. They were all, and none of them were really even RBIs off of base hits. One was an error. One was a fielder's choice. One was a drop ball. One was a sac fly. And one was a sac bunt.
Yeah, and when you're playing teams in the playoffs, they're not gonna play like that. They're not gonna be playing like the Royals or the Tigers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta get it done, and you gotta get better. But moving on to basketball, because we've spent more time than we needed to on the Indians. Just updating you on round 2 of the playoffs now that we're kind of full steam ahead with that. The Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers have been taking on James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and the Houston Rockets. That series is tied 1-1 with the Rockets taking game 1. The third game of that series is Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. That is post-recording for us, so you'll get more information next week as these series continue to go. Denver versus the Los Angeles Clippers are the other series in the West. Monday night, the Clippers took a 2-1 series lead after beating Denver in Game 3. I think this could be one of the best series in all basketball. Denver, Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's a toss-up for me between Clippers and then the Clippers Nuggets and Lakers Rockets. Lakers Rockets have been going back and forth. Last game, Russ didn't look like Russ. First game, Russ looked like Mr. Triple-Double that he is.
Russ, I don't know what was going on in Game 2, but Russ looked like Darius Garland.
Yeah, and any listener out here that knows me, I love Russ. And watching that, I was like, what is he doing? He's fumbling the ball. He's getting turnovers like crazy. LeBron is smacking the ball, almost breaking the screens that have the fake fans there.
Yeah, it was bad. It was a bad game for Russ in Game 2. Expect him to bounce back in Game 3, but like you said, both of those series I feel like are going to be back and forth. I think a lot of people discredited the Nuggets just because they went to 7 with Utah, but a lot of people don't realize like Utah could probably take any one of these teams left to 7 games. They're that good of a team.
Yeah.
I still say both LA teams come out of the West to set up a Los Angeles Western Conference Finals. Headed over to the East in what has been kind of surprising. The Miami Heat lead 3-1 over the Milwaukee Bucks with Game 5 starting as we speak here on Tuesday. With no Giannis Antetokounmpo playing in Game 5, looking to close out that series, it is very well possible that the Miami Heat are moving to the Eastern Conference Finals by the end of Tuesday night and by the time this airs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Of course the Heat are going. They don't have Giannis. They've just looked almost lackadaisical out there the whole playoffs.
Yeah.
I understand what's going on in Wisconsin and the social justice things and whatnot that the team is fighting for on social media. Yeah. I get how they're distracted, you know.
Yeah, I get.
That's their home state where this stuff is going on. But without Giannis, I don't think the Bucks. I think they're gonna get knocked out. But the Celtics Raptors. Now I think that's going to 7.
I think the Celtics Raptors goes to 7, and whoever comes out of that series is going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
I think both of these teams defensively could stop Miami. I don't know what Jimmy Butler is good, but I didn't think he was as good as he's made this Heat team.
Yeah, I mean, Playoff J. Is that what we start calling him instead of Playoff P?
I'm gonna continue to call him Jimmy Buckets, bro. But
Jimmy Buckets.
Yeah, I'm gonna call him Jimmy Buckets. But he's somehow made this Heat team from a team that could barely make the playoffs. And I know they've got more people. They've got Tyler Hero. They've got Bam Adebayo. They've got all these other guys. But coming off an offseason where they traded away Hassan Whiteside to Portland, and somehow, and I know they brought in Jimmy Butler this year, and somehow got better after trading away a defensive center like that. It's just a testament to what Jimmy Butler has brought to that team, and I can't really say anything more about it. So that is your NBA playoffs round 2 from Inside the Bubble update. Moving on, week 1, baby. Week 1 of the NFL season is finally here. I've been scared to say it for so long. I waited to say it until today. It is finally week 1. Let's go. In that, before we get to Browns at Ravens on Sunday, let's go ahead and talk about what came down earlier today. Cleveland Browns backup running back Kareem Hunt has signed a 2-year extension, keeping him in Cleveland for the next 3 seasons. It is 2 years, $13.5 million with $8.5 million guaranteed. What do you think about that?
I love it. Why wouldn't they? I mean, the Hunt Chubb backfield is probably the best backfield, if not the best backfield in the NFL, and that's not me being a homer. That's me talking about 2 great running backs. And I love that they signed Hunt because over the offseason, everybody was yipping and yapping that he wanted out. He wanted to pull a Duke Johnson. And he's had to go on social media so many times. Like, I'm from Willoughby. I'm from Cleveland. I do not want to leave. This is my city. Like, his dream growing up was to play for the Browns.
He went to college 2 hours away.
Right? And he went to Toledo, too. Maction, baby.
Yeah, he went to college 2 hours away. What about Kareem Hunt's entire career doesn't tell you he wants to be in Ohio, aside from the fact that he could have won a title in Kansas City?
Yeah, but look what we've stacked. Look what the Browns have stacked up in Cleveland.
Yeah, if they've got a good head coach, they could be very good. And I'm not even kidding about that.
I usually let myself get too worked up about head coaches. I've done it before for Hugh Jackson, Mike Pettin. So I'm not going to get myself worked up for Stefanski. I'm not going to let myself do this. But Stefanski looks like he knows how to run this offense. I'm not going to go out and I'm going to control myself as a Browns fan.
Okay, so with that being said, I totally agree with you. Don't really go over the moon, although I do think Stefanski could be just a stable
See,
leader.
I've always said that. That's why I'm going to control myself.
A stable leader at that. It stabilizes a lot of what went wrong last year, I feel like. Moving on. Browns, Ravens, week 1. Baker Mayfield versus last year's MVP, Lamar Jackson. You've got Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb in the Browns backfield. And you've got Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins in the Ravens backfield.
Something, you guys heard that, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So that was a little. Go ahead and do some investigating.
Yeah.
Luke, while we
something
continue
just
that,
fell and dropped to the right of us.
I was trying not to look over. I was trying to continue and be professional for you guys, but we're going to continue because
right.
we're recording.
Yeah,
we're going to let the cameraman figure that out. My man Luke over there.
We only have 10 minutes left.
We've only got like 7 minutes. Let's get through this.
Let's. I'm not going to give you a score prediction. I'm going to tell you that Browns beat Ravens. I'm going to tell you Baker throws for at least 275. Hunt has a breakout game. Hunt's going to break out at least a 40-yard rushing touchdown. That's my prediction.
Hunt's going to have a big game. I think the Browns lose.
Did I say Hunt?
Yeah, you said
I'm
Hunt.
sorry, I meant Chubb.
So I think the Browns lose. I think that all stories from Browns training camp says that it's been mostly install and not much live. So I don't think they're going to get destroyed. I don't think they're going to get ran off the field. I think it'll be a close game, but I think the Ravens come out top just because of their head coach quarterback tandem that's been together for a year. However, I think that the Browns also come out of this game looking like a more mentally focused team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what Baker said on the offseason was there was so much drama and distraction in the locker room that he couldn't focus when he was on the field. Because Freddie Kitchens would only draw up the first, 10 plays and then would try to freestyle it.
So he would kind of try to freestyle it and just it wouldn't happen. He just didn't seem how to make seem to know how to make in-game adjustments. So we're gonna go ahead and end it with this. Who do you?
Hold on, wait.
We're gonna end the football segment with this preseason Super Bowl predictions.
Super Bowl predictions. I'm gonna say it's gonna come down to maybe not the same as it was last year. I have a feeling that the AFC Championship is going to be between either the Titans and the Chiefs again, or here's where I become a homer, is the Browns and the Chiefs. And then between those two teams, if it's the Browns and Chiefs, I'm going to say the Browns. If it's Ravens and Chiefs, I'm going to say the Chiefs. Or did I say Titans?
Titans.
Okay, Titans. Sorry, we're a little distracted here.
We're getting there.
Yeah, and then I think the 49ers definitely have a chance, but also the Seahawks are up there because they just re-signed Josh Gordon. If Josh Gordon can stay clean, keep his nose to the grindstone, they definitely have a chance.
All right, so I'm not going to go with any homer picks because I'd love to say that the Dallas Cowboys make the Super Bowl. I'm going to go ahead and say that the NFC Championship game is Saints-Seahawks with the Seahawks going to the Super Bowl. I'm going to say the AFC Championship game is Chiefs-Titans with the Titans going to the Super Bowl.
All right.
I think they got better on defense. I think it's going to be a very defensive Super Bowl this year. But finally, what do you got for me today in this day in sports history, September 8th?
This day in sports history, September 8th, 1939, Cleveland Indians legend and American patriot, because he left baseball to go to World War II. Bob Feller is the youngest pitcher to win 20 games at 20 years old. Bob Feller's his career stats, he pitched a 3.25 ERA. He pitched in 570 games with 487 games started and 22 saves. I mean, what can you say? He had 266 wins and 162 losses. Bob Feller obviously has the statue outside of Progressive Field. We have his bobblehead right here. Absolute legend. So that's what I have for this day in sports history.
All right. We appreciate you guys for coming out and listening to any given episode, any given podcast, season 2, episode 19. Moving forward, we're just happy to continue to bring you more and more and more and more and more, and we're going to continue to make it better.
Speaking of
coming up next, we're going to go ahead and send you over to one of our favorite interviews. We've been teasing it for 2 weeks now. I can't stress enough how happy we are that we finally made it happen. Collin Taylor, two-time Arena Football League champion and friend of the podcast, officially is up next.
Here's his interview. Welcoming on our next guest is two-time Arena Football champion, actor, strength and conditioning coach, Collin Taylor. Collin, how are you?
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me on. Good to see you guys. Excited to talk to y'all today. I'm doing great. Thanks.
Yeah. So we did the interview a few weeks ago. Had some technical difficulties, which is expected. You know, with COVID, you can't have, in studio things. So it was a little difficult, but you'll have that, and you can't really change that. So you played at Carmel, Indiana, for high school. Walk-on at Indiana University. Last time I had my Indiana hat on, but I forgot it, of course, this week. Yeah. So, do you want to go a little bit into how you walked on to Indiana and the process to getting on the team?
Yeah, man, it was quite an experience. So it was a while ago, so I'll kind of tell you my memory. Of what I remember from the whole situation. I graduated in 2005. So I was part of the 2005 recruiting class, which was at the time Coach Terry Hepner's first recruiting class. We had gotten a new coach. Team hadn't won a ton before that. And I was excited to be a part of that group. I actually didn't hear a ton from Indiana. Well, let me, I guess, back up a little bit. My sister went to Indiana, so I wanted to follow in her footsteps and play at Indiana. My grandfather was a four-year letter winner at Indiana playing tennis. My sister was on the track team, so I knew that's where I wanted to play. I didn't want to play anywhere else. I was doing a lot of visits to smaller schools and other schools in the area, but I knew where I wanted to go to school, what I wanted to do. So I really didn't give myself any other options. So I was reaching out to them kind of all season. As my senior year, I kind of climbed the statistics of just the top receiving categories, being the top receiver in the state. I was kind of making my way up, top 10 first couple games, top 5 next couple games. And I wasn't hearing much from them. And I was bummed out the entire time, but I stayed persistent. Back then you were sending VHS tapes to these coaches. So it was something that, you wouldn't get to hear from them right away. I would send a letter and a VHS tape about every 3 games of some highlights cut up together. And I thought I was doing pretty well, scoring 2-3 touchdowns a game, returning kicks, returning punts, playing a little defense here and there. I'm sending them some film and didn't hear anything all season. So even come to the winter of that year after my senior year, I hadn't heard anything from them, but I kept at it. It was just the one thing I wanted to do, was go play for that team. And it wasn't until probably 6 weeks before the season started where they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we got all your film. We love what you do. We have a walk-on spot for you. Just want to work you out with some guys to make sure, you're the type of guy we want." So I showed up very beginning of the school year there, again, 2005 season. And I got to the stadium expecting to play, in front of 3 or 4 coaches, maybe with 1 or 2 other guys. Turns out they invited 99 other guys to this workout. So here I was going into the thing thinking that I was picked, thinking that I was a guy. I had to work out against 99 other guys. Week later, they called me back, said I earned a spot along with 6 other guys. So they took 6 of those 99 guys from the workout. And then starting that day, from that day that I made the team all the way through my senior year, every single day I fought like I could get cut. I practiced like I could get cut. I played in the games like I could get cut, because that really is the approach you have to take as a walk-on. They didn't have any money invested in me. They didn't really even have time invested in me. I was just showing up when I needed to, and I was eating what I needed to, when I needed to, and playing when I needed to. And, they didn't have anything invested in me, and that's how I think all walk-ons need to approach it, because it's not easy. Guys get given right away as soon as they get a scholarship. They say, "Here, man, here's 4 years paid for. We hope you turn out to be the guy they wanted." It was opposite like that with me and the other walk-ons. So it's where I learned discipline. It's where I learned hard work. It's where I learned camaraderie. It's where I learned really all the things that I use in training every day and trying to continue to get myself better every day. And then the athletes I work with now, these are the things that I preach to them. And I learned all of that just through the walk-on process at Indiana. So I was so blessed for the opportunity. And I think 4.5 years later, if you would ask them, they would say that I took advantage of the opportunities given, and I made that team a better team with me on it than they were when I wasn't on it. So, I was a part of first bowl game in over 10 years, the 2007 Inside Bowl, where we played Des Bryant's Oklahoma State team, which was awesome. Everybody knows what Des Bryant ended up doing. So just some great experiences like that, and met some, lifelong friends and guys who I still talk to every day. So it was a blessing to be able to do. And ultimately it was, I set a goal for myself, and I reached it, and my family was happy and made my family proud. And at the end of the day, that was the goal. That's what I wanted to do. And I'm blessed for the opportunity, and I'm blessed that I took advantage of the opportunity. And I'm now here to, able to tell you guys the story about it.
Yeah, that's totally awesome. That's like the mindset, like you said, just you're going to get cut. You could get cut at any time. You're a walk-on. That's the mindset that people that have the full ride should have, because at any time they could bench you for the person behind you because they're working harder. So after college, you did not get invited to the combine, which is very unfortunate. That sucks. But you did make it to the Arena Football League, and then you went from the Arena Football League to the Indoor Football League, and then back to the Arena Football League. You want to touch a little base on that process as well?
Yeah. Where do I start? Kind of a wild journey. So we did our pro day back in February of 2009, and I had some teams show some interest. The big problem for me was right before my senior year. Problem is a funny word to use. The opportunity that I had was right before my senior year. We had some injuries at safety, and I had played receiver for 4 years, and a spot opened up at safety, and they asked me to make the switch. So I made the switch from receiver to safety, a position I hadn't played, in over 8 years. Made the switch, had some success, became a starter, and started my whole senior year at safety. So I did my pro day playing safety. I then was having conversations with teams saying, yes, I try my best to make your team as a safety, but I don't have any idea what I'm doing, right? I'm comfortable playing receiver. This is what I've done my whole life. That's when I got the opportunity to play in the Arena Football League. I had a coach reach out to me. He had seen a game that I played against Iowa, had a couple interceptions and a forced fumble, led the team in tackles, and it was really like a kind of a coming out party for me. He had seen that on TV, and he had reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, if NFL stuff doesn't work, I got a spot for you in camp. You can come play defensive back for us." So I went out there to Oklahoma City, and I made the team as a defensive back, but I said the entire time, I said, "Hey, at some point I'd like to get some reps on offense because that's where I'm comfortable. That's what I know what to do." Made the team as a defensive back, started playing a little bit of receiver. They really liked what I did at receiver. So I kind of bounced around to two or three different teams, just waiting to land. The rosters in the Arena Football League are a little smaller. So I ended up the season, couple catches, couple touchdowns. I mean, nothing to write home about. That next year, I waited for the phone calls from either the NFL or the AFL. Neither of them came. So again, instead of kind of packing up and saying, all right, that's it. I made this whole journey. I did the whole walk-on thing. I earned a scholarship. I played in the Big Ten. I played a couple games professionally. Instead of kind of shutting it down there, I looked for the other options. And the next option was to go to a league a little lower. At the time, it was the Indoor Football League, and try to play and earn some playing time there, get some film, learn the game, so I can sell myself then as a receiver as opposed to the defensive back that they knew of me in college. So played a season up in Reading, Pennsylvania. Again, met some incredible people, played for some really great coaches, ended up being Offensive Player of the Year out there, which got my name back kind of floating around up in the Arena Football League, where I then the next year was invited to play in Iowa in the AFL. Played in Iowa for 2 years, came to Cleveland in 2014, and then that's where I was finally given kind of the opportunity to start. But I spent 2, 3, 4 years about bouncing around through leagues trying to figure out where I fit. And I was just so set on, proving so many people wrong who had told me that entire time that I couldn't do it, that I was doing the wrong thing, that I should get out of sports, that I wasn't a good enough receiver. I should go back to defensive back and blah, 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 kind of all the doubt that I get. I just, decided that's what I wanted to do and that's what I was going to do. And ultimately got me, again, to here. But, it bounced around and it took a couple different things, and it's not the same path that a lot of people took. But I got there and I got here. And so that's how I ended up in the Arena Football League, in the Chinese Arena Football League, and the Indoor Football League, and all of that.
So before we get into the Chinese Arena Football League, we're going to bring it back to landing in Cleveland in 2010. Like I've told you, I was at the game against Orlando, the playoff game right before the Arena Bowl. Like I said, we got that permanently up in the studio right now, the rally towel. Yeah, that was awesome. You started off with the touchdown. We talked about this last time. I thought you had 2, and I dropped the ball again and forgot to do that kind of research. So that's on me. Once again, yeah. But that was an awesome game. Like I said, I after that touchdown, looked you up, followed you on Instagram. So we've been Instagram following each other for about 6 years. Like I said, back then I was around freshly into the college age, so I was drinking cider beer. And your Instagram bio was a little offensive to me. Friends don't let friends drink cider beer, so I was a little offended. But that was a great game. You guys went to the Arena Bowl. Unfortunately, we couldn't be there. We wanted to, but we had a show here at the Kent Stage. So we had it on ESPN, though. Obviously, that was disappointing for you, that game. It was disappointing for everybody in Cleveland watching that one just because the outcome. But so you stayed in Cleveland, and then with the Chinese Arena Football League, you went out there for their experimental season. You want to touch a little base on that?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So played a couple seasons, 14 and 15 in Cleveland. And then there was word of starting, like you said, like an experimental league out there in China. And the idea was we wanted to introduce the sport that we love so much here to the athletes and the fans out there. A couple years previous, they'd had a kind of an all-star game, an East versus West all-star game out there. And there was a game in Beijing, and it was sold out, 10,000, 12,000 people, something like that. So Ron Jaworski, who was involved with the Philadelphia Soul at the time, got kind of a leadership group together, started a league out there. We were going to play 6 games in 8 weeks. There was going to be a draft where each team got to draft 21 players. But the big difference with this compared to what we did was 11 of those players were domestic Chinese players. 10 of them were, arena football or indoor football veterans who would go kind of teach the game. So I got drafted pretty high in the draft and ended up playing for Coach Clint Dozell, who had a ton of success in Philadelphia, and who's, again, to this day, I mean, one of the best coaches I've ever played with. But we took, 200 something, 300 something Arena Football League players out there. We paired up with 300-400 Chinese players and basically had a 2-week camp in Beijing where we taught them our sport. It's funny because we grow up, running around, throwing footballs, throwing baseballs, jumping and falling and climbing from trees and doing all this stuff. They didn't do that. They just had a different culture out there. So it was so new to them, even just even the forward pass, just teaching them that and teaching them how to set up and teaching them where wide receivers line up and where defensive backs line up and who defensive backs are. And that was the coolest part about it is, I would be talking, it would be myself and a receiver, a Chinese player, and I'd have right next to me a translator. And I would tell him, okay, this is what the receiver does. This is the goal. This is what we need to do on this play. And then the translator would translate it to him. He would then tell it back to the translator who would talk to me. And so, you think you have meetings here where everybody speaks the same language. They're an hour long. Practice is 2 hours long. Everything was doubled in time just because of the communication barrier. But the opportunity that we had there brought everybody so much closer. And seeing those little successes every day were so exciting for us as players. When I saw a player who, at the beginning of training camp, didn't know what a slant was and couldn't catch a football, to at the end of training camp, running a slant, catching a football, getting tackled, getting up, and returning to the huddle. I mean, just little wins like that was so awesome and so exciting. It was so exciting for us. So played for the Beijing Lions, got to represent the city of Beijing. Played the first game out there in Beijing. Then we traveled every week to new cities, ended up playing in Shanghai for the championship game, and ultimately won. We went 6-0. We won on a game-winning field goal at the end of the game that I got the opportunity to hold for, that came from a Chinese snapper, a guy who had never snapped a football before, probably the biggest play of his professional football career. And it was just awesome to be a part of that. And to celebrate with those guys and, and see just the tears of joy and their excitement because, again, they learned the game 8 weeks ago and are now winning a professional championship game. I mean, which is so cool to be a part of, and something that I will never forget. I have tattoos to represent that experience. I have, championship rings and trophies and things like that to represent. But, the best part is because of technology, I've got friends who I talk to, on a weekly basis who still don't speak English. But we still can reminisce and talk about those times, and they can be translated, and it's so cool. So something I'll never forget. And then even the next season came back to Cleveland in 2017 and had all those new relationships, had all those new friendships. Those guys who we won the championship with the summer before were watching our games on ESPN and watching the games online and having conversations with us and posting about us on Instagram. And that was all so cool. So it was such a memorable experience. Again, just another opportunity that I was blessed for. Thanks to the Arena Football League for putting me in that position, and was able to teach and show people the game that I love. And I really think they loved it out there too.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, like you were saying, those are memories and connections and friendships that you can't replace. That's one of the great things about sports is you build that brotherhood, even if it's one season, even if it's 6 games, it's still a brotherhood. Which is totally awesome. So you come back to Cleveland and you played the 17 season.
Yep, 16. What was it? 17 and 18 season then. Well, what, 2019? No. Yeah, and I get confused because of the, because years 14, 15, 16 and 17 were the last two we played there in Cleveland. Yeah, after going to China.
Yeah. So Brendan.
So with you coming back to Cleveland, failing I won't call it failing because that's a harsh word, but missing out on that, learning in the loss of the championship game, and then headed to Beijing and winning it, and then coming back. Was there that hunger still that I won't say still that like it was like I need to do this in Cleveland now?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That was something, that was a conversation that we had out there too. In China, there were some players that I'd been on the team with previous that I'd played with in the 2014 and the 2015 season. And again, as sweet as that was to win, it's almost like, you've got to learn to lose. You've got to understand that when you're learning, you can't just beat yourself up about it. You've got to do something. The game's over. How are we going to get better? Right? What are we going to do to learn from this? When you win, sometimes it's hard to understand that. Sometimes it's hard to understand that you can still learn from that process. And I think that was the biggest thing when we won that championship in Beijing is I saw what it took to win and have a successful team over here in the Arena Football League. And it's not always, coaching. It's not always X and O's, but it is always what's going on in the locker room. It is always the relationships you have with your teammates. It is always the level of communication you can have with your coaches. And those little things were things I wanted to bring back to Cleveland and be able to, kind of, work into playing here back in America, back in the AFL, with guys who have been playing the game for a lot longer, with guys who might not be very good in the kind of follower role, the guys who want to be leaders. You can't always have everybody being leaders, because then there's nobody to follow. Then it's all these different people yelling different things to do, and it's hard to figure out where you want to go. That's something that really was close to me, and that I figured out being out there in China and winning was, okay, I can be a voice. I can not only lead by example, but I can lead by, what I say in the film room, by what I do off the field, and what I say during games. And that was things that I used to my benefit coming back into America. As soon as we won that championship, that's the first thing I said to a good buddy of mine, Chris Deeker, who was our quarterback here in Cleveland for a couple of years. I said, I cannot wait to do this in Cleveland. Just seeing how everybody reacted, not only the fans, but, everybody involved with the team, from, the coaches and the trainers and the players. Everybody was so happy. Everybody was so excited to do that and accomplish that as a team. It was definitely something I want to do. So then I dedicated, the rest of my time in Cleveland to getting that and to winning that championship. Whether it be recruiting some guys who'd never been to Cleveland to come into Cleveland, to go around the city and walk around the city and meet some of the fans and meet some people who helped us, get to where we were as a team. I wanted them to have a relationship with them to be able to come to Cleveland, kind of, as a part of the recruiting process. And it's something I did for a couple of years, and it was something that I was dedicated to doing for the rest of my career until, unfortunately, they shut down in 18. But yeah, to answer your question, that was 100% the goal, and what I wanted to do after I accomplished that in China was to do it here.
So you, with Cleveland shutting down, there was still obviously that hunger to do it just in America. What was it like winning the first one with the Albany Empire? Well, not your second title, but first one in America.
Yeah. So, I thought when Cleveland shut down, the original plan was it was going to be 2 years. They were going to come back after renovation. I had landed a spot as a strength and conditioning coach here in Cleveland. I had started working in colleges. I started, working with athletes, both college level and professional level. And I made commitments to them that when the opportunity first came up in Albany to play, I wasn't open to it. I was good doing what I was doing. I was great being in Cleveland. I was great working with the athletes I was working with. And as bad as I wanted that championship, I didn't want to do it anywhere else. I didn't want to do it with anybody else besides the people in Cleveland. Obviously, ended up playing 2 years there. I was convinced by, a couple of the coaches and a couple of the players to go out there and had obviously a wonderful experience. The second year getting the opportunity to play in the championship and winning the championship. It really did check the final box of my professional football career that I had tried to check for so long. It had checked kind of all the individual statistics in the all arena and the postseason accolades boxes, which were all great, but it wasn't really what really made me feel satisfied at the end of the day was the individual stuff. It was more the team stuff and that championship and the ring that I really wanted to get. And so, that day, August 11th of 2019, top 10 days of my life. We'll never forget it. Again, won a championship in America with a group of guys who I really loved being around, with guys who I can say were some of my best friends, were some of the guys who I had worked the hardest with for the longest amount of time to be able to accomplish that. And to make that even better, I had family who was able to be out there in Albany and be able to enjoy the celebration with us. And the city was so loving to us. They were great with everything they did with us, and they ended up shutting kind of an area of downtown off a week later, and we had a block party to celebrate. And it's still stuff that comes up. They still reach out, and we'll do interviews here and there to talk about arena football and talk about the championship, even though it was now over a year ago. It was something that I still talk about again on a weekly basis, and people reach out and I've showed people before, but I have the tattoo to represent the 32nd Arena Bowl that I'll now wear forever. And again, when people ask, it's not just, oh, I got this because I won a championship. It was, I put so much into this, hard work and blood, sweat and tears and, early mornings and late nights and film review and everything that it takes to be a champion. I did it all with a group of people I loved and a group of people I respected, and earned something that a long time ago people thought I'd never be able to accomplish. So it's something I can look back to every day, every morning I wake up and say, I'm going to make today great. I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can because that's the only way you get things like this. So it was awesome. Something I'll never forget.
Yeah, you kind of stole my next question out of my mouth. I was going to say, obviously, which one meant more to you, winning it in China or winning it in the States? But right there, you pretty much said it. I can only imagine it was awesome, like you said, winning it in China, but to do it in the States, in the league that you, like you said, have worked so hard, blood, sweat, and tears, early mornings, late nights to get to. I can only imagine that feeling. Brendan?
Okay, so final question for you. We are obviously a Cleveland-based podcast, which means we talk Browns. We talk Browns football. You mentioned and alluded to earlier that you were a strength and conditioning coach at T3 Performance Center. We obviously tie that in with Baker, and I asked you this last week. Just what is it like to work with Baker, and what do you expect from him this year?
So, we get the opportunity to work with really elite athletes pretty often, right? Which is awesome. It's something that comes from, not only the facility we have, but the people we have in the facility. It's the communication we have between the Cleveland teams, and it's what we offer at the gym that kind of this level of athlete seeks us out and comes and finds us and wants to work with us. But we've also got a staff who is obsessed with giving their clients, whether they be adults, whether they be kids, whether they be professionals, giving them all we can to help them reach their ultimate goals. So it's no different when you're approaching a 12-year-old who just wants to, make his sixth grade football team, or you have a guy like Baker Mayfield come in and just wants to be in better condition before he plays in his season, right? We do as a staff whatever we can do to help benefit them, to help get them where they need to go. The difference is, in this conversation with a 12-year-old, I don't need to figure out when I can block off the entire gym, when I can shut down the entire gym so this person can come in and train, because there aren't people trying to take pictures and video of them. And, if you got 60 minutes to train, you don't want your athlete spending 45 minutes signing autographs. And it's something that all these guys we've worked with would be willing to do. I mean, they're such nice guys. They know kind of the position they're put in, and they know that's kind of a part of the job. But getting guys, like Baker and a guy like Raheem Mostert, who, kind of exploded towards the end of the year with the 49ers. Getting guys like that really challenges us as coaches, because we know that these guys are wanted by everybody, right? These guys could go train anywhere. So we've got to give them exactly what they want and exactly what they need, which are sometimes two different things, right? We've got to give them what they need for them to get better and to be able to play for all the money they're playing for. They've got to be able to play an entire season, and they need to be healthy, and they need to be strong, and they need to be in shape, and they need to show up in training camp ready to go, because it's all eyes on them. If I screw up, it's not going to be on ESPN's ticker. If Baker screws up, it's going to be all over the news. So those are things that are kind of hard for us to understand that it happens, but we have to understand that it's happening in their everyday life. So it's a great opportunity that we get it. There's nothing else I would rather do than that, than be able to help the most elite guys become even better, become even more elite. But it's at the end of the day, it's just we do as much as we can do, and then the season starts, and those guys do their thing, and we're rooting for them and cheering for them just like everybody else is. We're big fans, and ultimately it's because you end up seeing different sides that other people don't get to see. And we see they're good people. We see they're good family men, and we see how they treat their wives, and we see how, the relationships they have with their kids and how they greet people when they come into the facility. And it's things that a lot of people don't get to see, but it's that which is what really separates the best from the best, is how they treat people around them, how hard they work, how they're willing to punch the clock and work hard, and how they're willing to do the stuff that nobody wants to do just because they know it's going to make them better. So it's been awesome. We don't see them much now because that they're playing and everything's going on, and all our NFL guys are back in training camps. But I'm really excited to see how all these guys that we worked with do, and I'll be cheering for him every step of the way.
That is awesome, Colin. So I know you have to get going. So I would just like to say we would love to have you back on the podcast. I have some more questions for you that are not sports related, like your interview on 104.5 The Team, a little conspiracy theory. Maybe next time, maybe next time we can get into the acting a little more, like we did last time. But you have to go, so. You have some great stories about that. So, Collin, two-time arena football world champion, just an all-around great guy. Hopefully, we can say friend of the podcast.
Yeah, friend
of the podcast. Friend of the podcast. There we go. All right, Collin.
Friend, supporter. Yeah, I appreciate all you guys are doing, man. Thank you for reaching out. Thanks for making it happen. And yeah, next time we'll get on and we'll talk about some stuff outside of football. Yeah, it's funny. I said one thing years ago to kind of open people's minds and to try to get them thinking. And then, now I talk about it on almost every interview, every podcast I do. So I love talking about that stuff. It's super fun. Like you said, you can go back and kind of listen to some stuff and hear me talking about stuff a little more off the charts, a little more wild, but we'll do this again. And we'll get into that. But for now, I'm going to run off, train some more of these athletes, and we'll be in touch.
Right on,
Absolutely.
man.
We appreciate you, my man.
Thank you. Yep, you as well.
Bye-bye.
As we said, two-time world arena football champion, friend of the podcast, supporter of the podcast.
Supporter.
As he said. So, Brendan, you want to wrap us up here?
All right, you can follow my man Ethan at
ETH Simpson, CGOD on Twitter, and you can follow me on Instagram at ETH Simpson.
All right, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter, BWardCLE, on Instagram, B.Ward52. Follow the podcast. Twitter at Podcast Given, Instagram, Any Given Podcast, Facebook.com/Any Given Podcast, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube. You guys have a fantastic rest of your week.
God bless, stay blessed, be kind to one another.